Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Don't Risk It podcast presented by VFIS Client Risk Solutions. This program focuses on the exposures our clients frequently encounter and discusses the potential solutions to help reduce these exposures. I'm your host, Chris Rodgers with VFIS Client Risk Solutions, and today we're discussing quality assurance programs and emergency services. Joining me on the program today are Nicole Dugan and Jake Hoover from our education and training team. Nicole and Jake are here to provide some suggestions when assessing your quality assurance program. Nicole, Jake, I want to thank you both for joining me, and it's a pleasure to have you on the program.
Glad to be here.
Happy to be here.
Good to hear. So why is it important for an organization to have a comprehensive quality assurance program in place, Nicole?
So quality improvement is designed to improve, a problem or a process, and then that quality assurance ensures that compliance with our protocols or policies. We make sure that that's being done. Quality assurance and quality improvement are both intertwined and use key performance indicators and those, metrics to make sure that everything is being done appropriately.
So, Jake, what characteristics or qualities should you look for in a QA administrator or reviewer?
Well, I think the technical answer is the EMS administrative personnel are responsible for ensuring that EMS system is capable of providing quality to level of care that's deemed necessary by medical direction. But the reality is, when you're looking for that individual, you need a good quality individual who maybe isn't always the most veteran person on your staff, but somebody who exemplifies patient care in itself, somebody who can be unbiased, whether it's towards reviewing documents that are from providers who are do a good job every day and then turns a blind eye or something where you have a provider who doesn't do a good job and they want to pick on them. So they have to be unbiased in how they do things and have a good ability to review different things.
So what are some, beyond the technical abilities that they might have, what are some like personality traits or something like that? You mentioned that unbiased, but is there anything else that you would look for that person to make a good QA administrator or reviewer?
I think they got to be well-rounded. To be a good person to do quality assurance, you have to have a great background. You have to have the right personality for the job. I mean, let's face it, you're reading documents. You're going to be reading from the perspective of where the writer draws you in when they do that patient care. You have to be able to find from their perspective, can I evaluate this? Can I really see what happened on a specific call, for example? And that takes a unique person. Not everybody's cut out for that job, so you need to make sure you pick the right person when you do that.
So what are some of the key points that should be measured?
So you should be measuring some response times, the skills, proficiency in skills, and those benchmark times, like your IV rates or, the number of IV success rates that you have, how quickly you arrived on scene and then started your patient care, those kinds of time frames.
Is there a set number or percentage of charts that should be reviewed in this process?
Well, the reality is, and I know this is probably not done across the board, but the reality truly is 100% QA and quality assurance should be accomplished. And this can be done even in large organizations, but all charts really should be reviewed, especially anything that is pulled out has to be reviewed and sometimes needs to be pushed up to higher levels for follow-up.
Especially those calls, the cardiac arrest calls, pediatric calls, any calls that are involving trauma, intubation, narcotic medication dosages, those kind of calls.
Sometimes it's difficult to in a perfect world, we could review every call, but what about like BLS type calls? Is there is it 100% on those? Is it a representative sample? How should we address those?
So I think it's important to, like Jake said, you should ultimately do 100% of, QA, but definitely if those new employees, if they're a new provider, and then if you're doing like non-emergency calls or those BLS calls, maybe a certain percentage of those calls, would be good. If you don't have the ability to do 100% of those, maybe even if you just take like a random, 10 or 20% of those calls to read through.
Yeah, and the higher you shoot even if you can't get to 100%. The good thing about that is you're able to measure real data. You can see things you wouldn't see. If you only look at the quality assurance perspective from a failure but never successes, you can see a lot of things that could be missed in treatment, how we did things, protocols that were followed across the board. And that's important from an organization, because what you can do is you can start to catch trends within your organization, not always bad, but also good stuff to pass along, like we did this really well. So both sides need to be represented.
So it can be used as a teaching tool, some punitive to some degree. I mean, if somebody did something wrong, but if somebody did an excellent job, you should use that to highlight and to train, to train the other providers to follow.
Exactly. And the other key point is you can do training, but what if the training was done inconsistently and everybody does it wrong inconsistently, even though they thought it was doing it right? You would never catch that if you're only evaluating certain things. So I understand the complexity of doing 100%, but if you can push as high as you can towards that goal, it'll serve you better from an organizational standpoint.
Is peer-to-peer reviews part of that quality assurance process?
A lot of places, including ones that I've served in the past, they do peer review. That's how they got the 100%. Anything that was audited out, from there they would pass on above, whether it was good or bad. And then what it also gets everybody ingrained is you get to see what everybody else is doing when they're writing their charts. So there's a learning ability to that. Things like acronyms or certain verbiage that can be used, people pick up on that. So it actually can be used to educate people.
So how can an organization utilize the findings of a comprehensive quality assurance process?
Jake, I think you started talking about it with education, even re-education. If there's, something that you find through the quality assurance that's not being done appropriately, or maybe you're just kind of missing the mark on that, then you can use that as a re-education for the entire organization or just for individuals, specifically.
Right. And Nichole brought up something earlier. She said about, applying the heart monitor, for example. So if we're walking through the door and we see that for some reason our average time to putting a 12 lead on after evaluating somebody and finding they have 12 maybe chest pain and are above age 30, just an example, but it's taking us 15 minutes to do that, and we see that trend, how can we fix it? This is where we gain that data, and then we can use that educational process to how we speed that up.
So, Jake, Nichole, are there any resources that you're aware of that are out there that could help any clients that we have or any listeners, develop or enhance their quality assurance process?
Sure. You could check the National Institutes of Health and also the U.S. Fire Administration. You could also contact your authority having jurisdiction, your regional EMS councils, that sort of thing.
Good deal. Well, it was a pleasure having you all on the program today. I really appreciate you carving out some time in your afternoon to chat with us about this, and I really appreciate it, and thank you for all the great information.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
And I want to thank you for listening to the program and for your interest in VFIS safety resources. I want to thank our guests Nicole Dugan and Jake Hoover once again for their time and information. Please consider subscribing to our program to stay up to date on new content releases. Also, if you like what you've heard, please consider leaving a review below. For more information about the many resources available from VFIS, please visit VFIS.com. And to submit ideas for future discussions, please reach out by email at VFISriskcontrol@VFIS.com. Thanks, everyone, and have a great day. The views, information, or opinions expressed during this program are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of Glatfelter Insurance Group, VFIS, and its employees. Additionally, all views, information, or opinions expressed are provided for informational purposes only and should not be construed as legal, medical, or other professional advice on any subject matter.